Today is midterm election day here in the United States, but what does that mean for markets? Well, historically speaking, indices such as the US 30, NASDAQ 100, and S&P 500 typically tend to trend upwards after election day, no matter what candidate was elected. So that's something to keep an eye out for over the next couple of days. Now let's go ahead and look inside of the EdgeFinder at some currency pairs, including some of the indices. So here we are inside of the EdgeFinder, and it's a new week, and that means that we have new COT data for the US dollar, as well as all of our other currency pairs. But in yesterday's video, we were focusing on New Zealand dollar pairs, and we did not actually check up on the US dollar. So we're going to look at a US dollar pair, as well as one of our newest additions to the EdgeFinder, the NASDAQ 100. Now, before we did have all of these other indices, including the US 30 or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the S&P 500, and some other things here, but we did not have the NASDAQ listed yet, but we do. So we're going to check that out along with a US dollar pair. Now, if I bring in only our major currency pairs so that we can look at US dollar,
Black Friday is finally here, and that means that we're rolling out new products and brand new updates to the EdgeFinder. We have our new looking gold page, as well as our newest feature, the Fed Tracker, that predicts interest rate forecasts as well as inflation forecasts, and has things like US dollar impact, stock market impact, and gold impact. So you have more data than ever before when it comes to your trading. We hope that you guys enjoy the update, and if you want the EdgeFinder for yourself, you can use code A1YT for a massive 40% discount this month only.
USD JPY seems to be our biggest buy of the day, and Aussie dollar seems to be our biggest sell, with a couple neutrals and USD CHF also looking like a buy. But I think that we're going to go ahead and take a look at USD JPY. So here in the USD JPY breakdown page, like we just mentioned, we have a buy bias with a score of +5. COT data comes out to a score of +2. We can go down to our sentiment section right over here and take a look at our updated COT data. US dollar coming in at 77.17% long and 22.83% short. So institutional traders still heavily favored long on the dollar. Not much change there. And the yen 22.52% long and 74.48% short, so still heavily favored short on the yen there as well, so not much change there either. Retail sentiment, on the other hand, 35% long and 65% short, so retail traders are fairly heavily favored short on the pair as a whole. That gives us a score of +1 here. Seasonality has a score of +1 as well. And we can take a look here at November, and historically speaking, our all-time average and last 5-year average. Looking ahead, it looks like the all-time average has a slight, yes, a very, very slight downward trend, very slight downward move right there. And in the last 5 years, a more noticeable downward move, moving from November to December. Our trend reading is a score of +1, and that just means that this market is moving up respectively. GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates have scores of +1, -1, -1, and +1. We can take a look at our fundamental section right over here. So GDP growth in the US is 2.6% compared to 0.9% in Japan. Inflation 8.2% in the US compared to 3% in Japan. US unemployment 3.7% and Japan unemployment 2.6%. And lastly, interest rates. US interest rates sit at 4%, while the Japanese interest rates sit at -0.1%. Keep in mind that we have our scanner output summary here, which is a written summary of why we score the things the way that we do. So if you're ever wondering why retail sentiment gets a score of +1 or COT data is getting a score of +2, you can check out the scanner output summary, and it explains why we score these things the way that we do. All right, so let's go ahead and check out our newest addition to the EdgeFinder, the NASDAQ 100. So here we are in the NASDAQ 100 page, and currently sits at a sell bias score of -3. Now, keep in mind that the election in the US is just getting started. I was checking up on some of the ballots and things earlier, and absolutely no information has been released yet. It is still way too early to tell what is going on. However, we do expect that as things move along, and especially in the next couple of days, that the indices in the US, the NASDAQ, the S&P, the Dow Jones, those things will most likely tend to trend or start trending upwards. So this could go from a sell bias up to a neutral bias, maybe to a buy bias as well. So let's see, our score of -3, COT data here. We have institutional trader data sitting at 45.37% long and 54.63% short on the pair or on the indice. So institutional traders not heavily favored one way or the other, which is why this has a score of 0. Yes, they are kind of favored short, but with a score of only 54.63%, that's not enough for us to give it a score one way or another. Retail sentiment, on the other hand, 72% long, 28% short. Retail traders are favored long on the indice. Seasonality is a score of +1. And we can see here October to November. So where it starts in October, this is what we're talking about when we talk about it trending upwards during elections. So where it started in October to where it finished in October to where it finished in November, in the current year average, all-time average, and last 5-year average, we see upward trends. And what we really want to look at is the all-time average and last 5-year average, because that's our historical data. And we can see sharp moves to the upside from where it finished in October to where it finished in November. So again, historically speaking, after these elections, we see these indices rise throughout the month of November. Now, going into December, we do see somewhat of a downward trend, but again, historically speaking, once the election is finished, these indices tend to rise, and that's what we're looking at here with this move from October to November, that big spike up there where it finishes out in November. Our trend reading is -2, and that just means that currently this market is moving down, respectively. And lastly, we have our GDP growth, inflation, unemployment, and interest rates, and valuation as well. So GDP growth and inflation have scores of +1, unemployment, interest rates, valuations have scores of -1. And we can look at our fundamental section over here, and I love this new kind of style that we're doing with the EdgeFinder here with these arrows. We do it with things like gold, as well as our brand new Fed tracker section here. But this makes it super easy to kind of understand why things affect the market the way that they do. And keep in mind that these correlations are not perfect. They are instead general observations. For example, if money supply in the United States increases, we have noticed a strong correlation in the rising price of stocks. This could change in the future, but it is something that we monitor closely. So, typically speaking, like we're talking about with the elections, it is not just 100% fact that after the elections the indices go up, but however, because we have a lot of historical data to go back on, it seems as if it does typically trend upwards after elections. So, similarly, GDP growth, this one's a little bit obvious, but if the economy is doing well, then that's going to be good for stocks. So that makes sense. Inflation, if inflation is getting really high, then that's not going to be as good for stocks. Same with unemployment, same with interest rates. So that makes sense there. And then money supply, as we kind of just mentioned in this little note, same thing. We've noticed that as money supply tends to go up, that tends to be a good thing for stocks. So we have US data right here. We already went over the US data, so I'm not going to go back over that. But yeah, that was a quick look into our brand new NASDAQ 100 section here in the EdgeFinder. Remember, if you want the EdgeFinder for yourself, we are having our biggest sale of the year, our Black Friday sale. There has never been a better time to get the EdgeFinder for yourself. You can use code A1YT at checkout for 40% off. Again, never been a better time because this is our biggest sale of the year. A1YT is the code for 40% off at checkout. Now let's turn it over to stream highlights from today's live stream featuring Trader Nick and Trader Jake.
So NAS 100. Next up on the list, we're taking a look at the NASDAQ, seeing what's going on here. So the next one we're going to look at here is getting a -3. So we have a -3. What's breaking that down? Well, we have a strong downward trend and some of the metrics that we pay attention to: unemployment, interest rates favoring more downside, with inflation actually curbing a little bit and GDP growth looking positive. You've got a soft sell on NAS 100. This is only a -3, which does constitute, sell bias, but it's not incredibly sell heavy, right? It's not like we're just trying to sell every single rally. So we narrow in on the price. Once we get the EdgeFinder bias, I'm not looking to just because the EdgeFinder said sell, I'm just going to sell outright, right? I'm going to still look for setups. I'm going to still use all my technical charting abilities and strats and whatever you use to enter trades. But what we can do here is we can start marking up our chart. We can say, okay, well, we're tagging resistance here. This support level has recently broken. Now we've retested this area. So I would say, you narrow in on this and you say, okay, we have a sell bias. We had a big break of support right here, right? So support broke out. We hit that low down here at 10,600 and rallied on NAS 100, came up just shy of the 50%. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I probably would have been patient and tried to wait for that 50%. So if this thing just slips away, you probably missed the move. But as it comes up into that 50% retracement, you've got resistance looking left, right? 50% retracement looks nice. I like it for a possible short just in the short term. Being very, very cautious not to, if it's going to be a sell up in this area, I've got to stop out if it starts breaking through the 618. So I like NAS 100 on the short side for the time being until something shifts on the equities market. We're still just seeing a lot of weakness on tech stocks and things like that. What is the site you're using? Good question, Trucking Mogul. Let me make sure I dropped this. You just reminded me. If you guys are wondering what tool I am looking at here, this is the EdgeFinder. This is a software tool that our company has built. I run a company called A1 Trading. We build tools for traders, and this is something that we've been working on for the last 6 months or so. It allows you to look at several different metrics at the same time and get a bias on any particular asset that we have listed. We have commodities, minor currency pairs, major currency pairs, and right below me, my team just dropped this in the chat. If you would like a free trial of the EdgeFinder, click this link, fill out that form, and someone from my team will reach out to you, answer your questions, work with you, and potentially give you a free copy to try out of the EdgeFinder for a limited time. If you just want to get the EdgeFinder, if you've been watching the streams, I just want to remind you right now is our Black Friday sale. We are doing it all month. We just extended it out for people to, if they want the EdgeFinder, if they want to make it work, if they want to, however much time they need, we're going to give them that month to get access to the EdgeFinder for 40% off. It is the biggest discount that we do all year long. So if you want the 40% off on the EdgeFinder, if you've been waiting to get it, if you've been like rubbing your hands together, like waiting for the sale, today is the best chance you're going to get it 40% off. All of that information is linked in the description. And again, if you have any questions, if you'd like to speak to someone or ask questions about the tool first, then just click this link, fill out that form, and somebody from my team will reach out to you to help you out. Okay. Dynance Forex, I actually do want to add Bitcoin, little secret, little foreshadowing. I do actually want to add some of the cryptos to the EdgeFinder at some point or another as well. We're not quite there and it would be a bigger project, but at some point we'll add them, I think. We just got added NAS 100. So again, we're trying to go rapid fire here today.
Let's talk about the dollar, guys, because the dollar is moving right now. The dollar is breaking down. It's breaking to the downside. And I do expect a little bit of this dollar weakness to continue at least throughout the rest of the day, right? And I'll share with you my reasons why. First of all, let's talk about the dollar on the daily chart, right? So when we zoom in just a little bit on the daily chart, what we can see is that the DXY has not made a bottom wick here on this day. And I've been kind of watching to see if this daily was going to flip and continue bearish. So I would say, with a pretty high level of confidence that obviously nothing is 100%, but at some point we're going to probably break these lows here on the day, right? And we're obviously traveling down now, so it's a little bit late to jump into a position in my opinion, but you did maybe have some nice opportunities on the dollar if you were to take an entry somewhere in here on this little correction, right? If we measure our fibs here from the most recent swing highs to the most recent swing lows on the hourly chart, me preferably, I would have liked to have gotten an entry up here towards the 618, which is kind of what I was waiting on. and I didn't want to be overly aggressive. And I'll tell you why I don't want to be overly aggressive with dollar shorts right now, even though it is a little bit bearish, right? Overall, the dollar is pretty bullish, right? Overall, the dollar is bullish. The Federal Reserve is still hawkish. The last FOMC meeting at the press conference, Jerome Powell was very much doubled down on that hawkish approach, squashing any hopes of easing of rate hikes. And then I think at NFP, which we were just saying, I was here on Friday discussing, we missed employment numbers a little bit, right? We had unemployment come out a little bit higher than expected, and that resulted in a dollar sell-off. So we're seeing some current dollar weakness, but overall, I think the main driving factors of what makes the dollar strong still remains. And when we zoom out, we're still here just trending up, right? Now we are approaching some levels that are kind of like must-hold levels, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that in a sec. USD election uncertainty. Yeah, I think that could have, be playing a role as well, right? We have the congressional elections happening right now, and that could always, lead speculators to make decisions on the market, specifically with the US dollar right now. So even though the dollar is weak, right? So I did play some dollar shorts early in the week. I took some NZD USD longs here off of these lows. I'm already closed out of this trade by now. Wasn't a massive win. It was a good win though. And then I basically played the breakout below these lows here, caught that move to the downside. To be honest, NZD USD was a little bit of an underperformer. Like if I could do it over again, I would have jumped in GBP USD or Euro USD, but closed out that trade because I had a feeling we were going to start to pull back. We got that pullback. I was waiting for a deeper correction though at this point, which we just never got, right? Which is fine. Didn't even really get that 0.5 level to get hit, right? We kind of just front ran that 0.5 level. I would have wanted to see like a 0.618 tap up into this level to get short on the dollar. Because I do feel like we're approaching some support here. We're approaching the level here where we may see that dollar upside come in, specifically as we get closer to the CPI numbers later this week.
Make sure you guys check out the links in the description if you need broker recommendations, access to our free Discord, or want to chat with us on Telegram. If you're interested in our trading software, the EdgeFinder, you can find that in the description as well. Thanks for watching.